Hi, my name is Heather, and today I'm going to show you the whole process from start to finish of how I made my children's book and published it on Amazon. The first step to creating my children's book was to come up with a concept. And the concept that I wanted to show was that everyone's different and our differences make us special. Because I always wished that I was like everyone else when I was younger, and I just never felt like I fit in. And I just wanted to show that, we're all different. And I like doing animals, especially forest animals, so I thought it would be neat to show how each forest animal is different. So I came up with my story. I went through the forest and just named like each different animal and how they're different. And then I showed my script to some friends, and one of them said, well, you need to have like a main character. And so then I thought that I could have a mouse, and he's feeling down because he's different than everyone. And so he walks through the forest and sees all the different animals. So that was my concept that I came up with. And then I wrote out a whole script that had each page and the text for each page. And then, I sent that to friends because I'm not a great writer. And, they kind of helped me work with the words and make it sound nice. So I did that. And then I kind of wrote out like what I wanted the picture to be. So then I made sketches, and at first my sketches were, I guess, kind of boring. So I've always had this thing in my head of consistency. Like if I design a website, then I want all the pages to be consistent, right? So I had this thing in my head that like all the pages of the book should be consistent. So I had like just a spread with like the bear hugging the bunny, and it's just like a straight on, and then one with the squirrel and the rabbit talking, and it was just like straight on. So I had all of these sketches. I don't think I have them anymore. Yeah, they were just kind of boring. And so I checked out a book from the library, which was this book, Illustrating Children's Books, which it's kind of old, but I think it's still very relevant, and it has some really good tips in it. Let's see, it was published in 2004. The part that really was amazing to me was that, one, your pages should not be consistent, because having them not consistent was what makes them more exciting to kids when they're looking at it. Like if you have like a completely different layout and different background color on the next page, they're gonna be like, whoa, and it's kind of exciting. And then the other thing was this dynamics of composition and layout. And it talks about how you should like work your text into the layout. Like right here where they have the text like in an arc, and they have text in like these empty spaces. And I was like, that is so cool. Like I would love to do that. But I kind of thought like graphic design wise, everything needs to be consistent. Like the text always, at the top or like whatever. But I was like, well, that's way more fun. So then another concept that I had in this book was having your pictures be from different points of view. And that was also really helpful because I had all of them just straight on. And so instead, have it from, like, when the owl's looking over the forest, have it from the owl's vantage point, and then, the whole forest is small and he's looking, or, zoom in on one part, or, So then I reworked it, and then these were all my sketches I came up with. So I have the text in like really weird places, like where it goes like across the tree branch on this one, and I try to do like different points of view. Like this is a close-up of the bunny and the squirrel, and their heads are like really big and they take up the whole page. This one's from the owl's vantage point, and then this other part's really small. So just a lot of those, and like zooming in a lot too, because I did have it where it was like had these two animals and like all this background, but instead I like zoomed in, so I have like a big turtle here, the fox here takes up like the whole spread. Oh, and then this one with the mouse and the cheese is like really big, it's like zoomed in. So that was the next thing, was I basically just did like a storyboard type of thing where I had every single layout. And then after I did that, then I started the paintings. The paintings I did with acrylic on canvas because that's what I know the best. And here's some of them, for example. So I got these panels, and then here's the little ants on the dirt with their little anthill. And I have the little mouse hiding somewhere in each picture because I figured it would be cool to like add, you know, something interesting, unique, and like kind of a fun activity. They can go back and look for the mouse. So anyways, like there's the mouse there, and then I have this panel with the big turtle, and like I knew I was going to be cropping like probably here and here, but I did actually end up cropping them somewhat differently than how I had them on here. Like some of them I kind of zoomed in more, and there were quite a few where I wanted to like move elements around, and like this one I think I zoomed in like a lot more. Like I ended up cutting off like all of this. And so later, after I did all of these, and then I got them all scanned in, which by the way, they are pretty big, but I get them scanned in at the same place that I get all my paintings scanned to make my prints, which is the FedEx Print and Ship Center. And if it's too big for the scanner, then they just scan it in 2 parts, so half and half, and then I just combine it in Photoshop. So I did that, and you know, I brought it into the computer, started making my layouts in Photoshop and putting the text on them. And then a lot of them I need to change stuff, so there was a lot of cutting out and clone stamping and that kind of thing. And then this was the last page that I made, and it was Mouse realizes that he's a good friend, blah, 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 and so he's hanging out with some of his friends. And I don't know, I just hated it. I don't know why, but I just hated it. And so I decided on something completely different. I talked to my friend Christy, and she suggested having all of the animals in the scene and having them kind of like all in a circle, like talking. And so I sketched it out, and I ended up making them like eating s'mores around in a circle. Oh, which actually is, I can just show you it here. So it's this one. This I did in Procreate on the iPad, which I didn't have when I did all these other paintings. But really, I mean, it has changed my life so much. Like, my productivity has gone up so much since I've gotten the iPad with the Procreate. Anyways, I actually ended up going through a lot of the pictures and bringing them into Procreate, and then kind of going over them and like fixing some things that I didn't like about these ones. Because it was just, I mean, I know you can like draw in Photoshop and stuff, and I actually have a Wacom tablet, but I never really got the hang of like drawing and coloring in Photoshop. So I mainly just use my Wacom tablet for doing like vector illustrations in Illustrator. So anyways, I did a lot of touching up. And then the last page I did completely in there. But the challenge was making this page look like the other ones, as far as like making it look like it was painted with acrylic paints. And as you can see, there's like different canvas texture and all kinds of texture that makes it look like it was painted with acrylic on canvas. So the way that I found out about that was I talked to my friend Caitlin, who she actually illustrates children's books, and I told her, how can I do on Procreate, do like acrylic painting, because I find so many like watercolor painting stuff for Procreate, but I don't really find much acrylic painting stuff. So she told me about this Skillshare class called Acrylic Landscapes, and when you join the class, she gives you a free set of brushes. And so I took the class, and I, you know, watched all the videos and did the exercises and stuff and got the brushes, and it made such a difference. Like, when I colored, like, there's actually a brush that has the canvas texture in the brush, and so you can do some of your shading with it. And there's like brushes that are more dry brushing, and then some that are more kind of like wet, but they're like acrylic on canvas. They're not watercolor like most. So anyways, I did this whole layout, and it was so much better in Procreate because I had everything on like different layers, and I could move stuff around. I could copy and paste the marshmallows and then just do different brown, you know, on them for how much they were cooked. So anyways, that was how I did all of the images. One thing is, so when I did the layout in Photoshop, I had to make sure that I had all of the bleed correct. So as you can see, it's cut off on the edge rather than having like, you know, a border on the edge or something. So the way that I did that is I added okay, so I had to go look up the measurements just to be sure. But when I did the spreads, I made it so that there was an extra 1/4 inch along each edge. And I actually, in Photoshop, I designed it as a whole spread, but once you upload it to Amazon, you actually have to make them separate pages to upload them to Amazon. And so one thing to keep in mind is that you're going to have a 1/4 inch extra picture around the edges that's going to get cut off. So it has to be kind of like unimportant, like blades of grass or whatever. But then on the inside edge, you don't have that extra 1/4 inch bleed. So you're going to have an extra 1/4 inch all around this whole spread. And then when you cut them in half to make separate files, this will only have a 1/4 inch on this side extra, but not on the inside. But then you will have 1/4 inch top and bottom. So I hope that makes sense. So that's how I laid it out in Photoshop. Then I printed out little sample spreads. I printed out each spread and I did fit to page, so it would just fit on 8.5 by 11 page of glossy paper. I probably have them somewhere around here, but I can't find them, or else I would show you. But just so that I could kind of see it printed out, because it does look a little different once you have it printed out and you see it like right there in front of you rather than on the screen. And you also might notice things that maybe you messed up on or whatever. So I had those, and I kind of like made little notes about each page of stuff I want to change, showed it to a few people, friends and stuff. And then I went back and made the changes. And then once I was happy with all of my spreads and everything, that was when I went into each of my spreads and I just cropped the left half and saved that as a JPEG, and cropped the right half and saved it as a JPEG. And that way I would have the separate pages. And then I used Adobe Acrobat to combine all of those together and make a PDF. So when I made the PDF, it only had the inside pages because that's how it works with the Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, which is what I used. So since I wanted it to be all spreads, the first page was a blank page, so I actually had to save like a blank white square. So this is 8.5 by 8.5 inches. And so I had to actually do like an 8.5 by 8.5 square. Well, actually with bleed. So it would be, plus a 1/4 of an inch top and bottom and a 1/4 of an inch on the right. So that was the first page of my PDF. And then, page 2, page 3, and it just kind of goes along with all the pages. And then once you upload it to Amazon, it will give you a little preview, and you'll be able to get a preview of what it looks like. And then for the cover is all one file, and it's like this whole spread like this. And depending on how many pages your book has, the cover will be a different size. But it is kind of confusing figuring it out. So I just do the cover as 8.5 inches plus 8.5 inches plus the bleed. So 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, and then top and bottom. And then when I uploaded it, it was like, oh, it's actually supposed to be blah, blah, blah. It gave me some error and said it has to be like this little bit extra. And so then I just changed my file, like cropped it or whatever. So anyways, I designed it like this, like all one thing. And you can upload it and then preview, and then you'll see like where the barcode gets put. Once I created it and then published it, the look inside the book wasn't activated. So you have to wait like 2 weeks, I think, before you can email them about it, because I guess it takes like 2 weeks for them to get it done. But then I think a lot of times it doesn't get done. I'm not sure why. When you're on the My Bookshelf page and it shows all your books, then you can go down to the contact link, and then there's a category on the left for look inside the book, I believe, and then you can email them and say, can you please enable look inside the book? And then the other thing is that the preview is only like 10% or maybe even less than that. So it only showed like one page. So I increased my page preview to 90%, which you have to email them again and say, can you please increase the page preview to 90%, which 90% is the max that they will increase it to. And so that was it. That was how I published my book. And then I ordered author copies, which were about $3 each. You get to pay just the printing cost, but then you also have to pay shipping. And it takes a very long time, 2 weeks. So I ordered like 10 author copies that I could sell locally. And if anyone wants to buy it over Amazon Prime, then I get part of that sale. Also, you get to set your own price so that you get however much profit that you want to get from it. And that's about it. So that's how I created my book. And I hope it helped anyone who's kind of new to the book publishing process through Amazon. This was my first time ever creating my own children's book, so it was a learning experience. I'm excited for my next book that I do, which I'm not even sure what I'm going to do. But anyways, so I hope it helped. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye!